Welcome to the Basketball to Remix podcast, and I am your host, MT Armstrong, aka Coach 1891. And today I have a very special guest on the Basketball to Remix podcast. I have the founder and president of HoopCulture, a basketball lifestyle apparel brand out of Florida. And that gentleman I have with me today is Mr. Mike Brown. Welcome, Mike. How you doing this morning?
I'm blessed. Thanks, Mark. It's good to be talking to you.
Same here, man. And it looks like you're enjoying some beautiful weather down there in the background. Tell the audience where you're currently located.
Yeah, I'm currently located in Oviedo, Florida. It's right outside of the great University of Central Florida. Our headquarters is in Longwood, right up the street in the suburbs of Orlando.
Suburbs of Orlando, right. And I thought we would start our conversation off kind of from where you're at now, and then we'll jump back to in the beginning. You know, in these conversations with entrepreneurs and founders like yourself, you know, we start off in the beginning, what made you the guy you are. But as a customer and a fan of HoopCulture, I received this letter from you a couple of weeks ago, I believe. A hoop generation, a decade of culture. And what I liked about it, and what it suggests to me is that HoopCulture actually has been at the forefront of the modern basketball lifestyle vibe, and particularly in apparel. And when I'm just going to go ahead and read this for the audience, so I think it helps set context on who HoopCulture is. We wanted to give you a little insight into the creation of HoopCulture. HoopCulture is the premier one-stop store for copying unique basketball accessories, the forerunner of the independent street and lifestyle apparel, setting trends with each and every new arrival from the bottom up. Back when it was still just a textbook definition, we were first to bring you what it means to be unequivocally part of the culture. And 10 years later, not only have we changed the apparel game, we have reinvented the wheel, somehow pioneering many of the tags that resonates now with your generation. Eat, sleep, ball. I love that one. Hoop vibes. The game is my life. Basketball above all. Ice in my veins, and plenty more. We started back in 2009 with one kid's ambition and a single slogan on a graphic t-shirt reading, "This game is my life." It grew into a global movement thanks to the millions of supporters who have seen us grow on every mainstream social platform. HoopCulture is fitted, basketball made, players welcome. Sincerely, Mike Brown, President, HoopCulture Inc. Mike, beautiful letter. Nice touch from the founder and the head guy over there. What inspired you to write that letter and send that out to people on your email list?
Well, it's always easy to be able to write your thoughts down rather than, conveying them, over a voice. And it just was something that I've been passionate about, celebrating our 10 years this year. Mm-hmm. It's been a grind over the last 10 years. And I think as a business owner and having so much responsibility, you can get lost in that. But just being a 10-year-old brand, there's an accomplishment in that alone. And this year in particular, I've been able to resonate on that and enjoy that part of the process, and just appreciate the fact of what I've been through and what our team has been through over 10 years. So it's a pinnacle for me. It's something where I like to really hold myself accountable and win at almost everything that I do and the company does. But in business, you take losses, and sometimes you can take those to heart. And so it's hard to get complacent in an everyday cycle of a business. And so for me in particular, I'm always want to be better. I always want to achieve more. So it's hard to take a step back and see what we've done and gone through. And I think celebrating 10 years has allowed me to take a step back and appreciate the process and appreciate how far we've come, regardless of where we are in particular to where I want to be. So it's almost like a moment where I could take a breath and just say, we've made it this far, and I appreciate the process, and I appreciate how much we've been able to influence the culture of basketball around the globe. That's a big deal to me. You know, when I see that people are wearing the gear, when I see that people recognize the name. I remember in particular, I was at an event in Louisville, I believe, and some kid was like, "You work for HoopCulture?" And I was like, "Yeah." And mindful, like, this is a real grind. Like, I'm driving to different cities. We're setting up pop-up shops, promoting the brand. And he was like, "Do you know how big HoopCulture is?" And I was like, "Thank you very much." It was a kind compliment in the time that I needed it. But I just always love that story, because it's like, we don't always know how big we are around the globe, because it's a 24/7 grind. Yeah, this is just a moment. It's a long-winded answer, but a moment to be able to just say thank you and reflect on what we've accomplished over a 10-year period, which I think in business is an accomplishment in itself to make it for that long, especially in an industry like this. This is everybody's, you know, trying to do it. People love basketball. If anyone can, I mean, since we started, I can't even think of how many people have come into the space. So it's a battle every day.
10 years, Mike, is a monumental accomplishment when you think that average small business fails be 4 or 5 years. You know, so to get to 10 years, that is a huge accomplishment. So congratulations on that. And that answer was a 10-year answer, so it's perfect.
Right.
Now HoopCulture is HoopCulture your first business, or are you kind of similar to other entrepreneurs who've probably been running businesses and trying different things since they've been kids? How long have you been on that type of grind?
Well, I would say that ever since I was a young kid, I always had a business mindset. I grew up with very little, and so I always wanted to gain more. And I think that it started with, you know, baseball cards to paper routes to selling, you know, selling merchandise to buy more merchandise. As a young kid in middle school, into high school, I started getting into playing basketball, and I did that pretty much 24/7, and I had to, because I wanted to be the best that I could be. I took that into college, and I played at a junior college, then at a small Division II college. And during that process, I knew that I wasn't going to be playing at the next level. So I took that hard work that I put into basketball and started putting into school and business, and started dreaming about, you know, what I could accomplish beyond the basketball court. So my first business was trying to help kids get into college for basketball. For me in particular, like, I would have never attended college. I grew up in like I said, in a poor environment where no one had ever attended college before, but it was the only place that I could play basketball at the next level. So college was the only option for me to continue to play basketball. And for that reason alone, I ended up getting a degree, a great education, learned, you know, opening up so many more doors than what my small town had to offer. And so after I graduated, I saw the value that basketball brought to my life personally. And I wanted to help other kids fulfill the same goals of playing at the next level. I figured if I could play, anybody could play. It just finding the right fit, whether it's a junior college, Division III, NAIA. So I put together this database that had all the schools in the country that offered a basketball program. I called it Hoop Connection, and it connected athletes to college coaches. probably premature before its time, where like the internet was really a social community in a specific space like this. And so I remember promoting it, and I had this DVD basically where you could load it, and it had all the schools on there. You could basically take it in your own hands, reach out to coaches. They wanted to see game tapes. I mean, the process is so simple for the lower levels. Division I, there's all the money in the world to recruit. And I'm speaking, obviously 12, 15 years ago when I was in this space. But, smaller schools, they recruited from having personal camps or getting videos. I remember my college coach, he'd get videos from overseas and be like, have to make recruiting decisions based on kids submitting videos. So I wanted to get into that space and just help one kid go to college. And I remember trying to promote that business, Hoop Connection, at a basketball event. And I had a t-shirt on there with the logo. So the logo's always been the same. So Hoop Connection, the HC logo. And some kid was like, how much for that t-shirt? And I was like, maybe I need to switch gears here and figure out how to make money in business so I can be successful, so that I can truly be a blessing to other people. And so ever since that moment, we took the HC, turned it into HoopCulture, because that's more of a lifestyle brand for apparel, and ran with that. And so, for the past 10 years, that's what we've been doing, and that's where it's kind of came from. So technically, I started kind of with the mentality of a Hoop Connection, where I was connecting athletes to coaches, but it evolved into HoopCulture. And thankfully, that's pretty much the only business I had to be in. I think it's one thing when you're so passionate about something, you'll find the will to survive and to succeed.
I totally agree with that. Did you know that your blueprint is, I'm going to use the word exactly the same blueprint that the first premier, your grandfather in a way, of your niche industry, and one. That's exactly how they got started. They started off with a database type basketball service and did that for about a year. And at some point they switched to the apparel, had the single shirt with the faceless man, and boom, it took off from there. So I don't know if you knew that, but that's exactly how the guys from And One started. You said something else that I think is important that kind of helps tie the direction I would like to go with is, in so many words, you leverage what you learned in wanting to be the very best basketball player and leverage something about that into the energy, the et cetera, to not only start your business, but continue with the grind. As a former collegiate athlete yourself, what were some of the transferable skills, transferable experiences that you developed in wanting to be the very best basketball player you could, and take it to your physical limits, and then transitioned into business and kept it moving?
Yeah, and I'd like to kind of thank my one of my teachers, professors in business. He said that I won the IBM Business Award in college, and he said I took my hard work from the court and put it into the classroom. And I thought that was interesting, because that was before I knew I did that, because it's just a natural trait that we develop when we're trying to be better, through practice, work ethic, especially if you're smaller than everyone else, you work harder. And that's one of the things that, I've learned, that it doesn't matter how big you are. It just matters how hard you work and what you're willing to sacrifice and put into it. But I think with basketball in particular, it's really the work ethic that I developed from it, because it was the endless nights in the gym. It was the endless practices during the day. It was endless of what I could do to be better. And I poured it all into basketball. And so pouring that into the next step, and which when I graduated college, I got into, sales and advertising, and that's competitive as well. So, when you want, it's just like, Did you find yourself tapping into
basketball experience during tough times, mentally or physically challenging times? I got to get up. I got to go do this, the grind.
I think naturally I did that, but I think it was more so the game of life, the game of business, just wanting to win, just being competitive. So I think that competitive spirit aligned with basketball, which is a team sport. So you have to have that, leadership ability to lead your team, to work well with others. I think that's crucial in any job. You could be the best salesperson ever, but if everybody hates you and you don't do things the right way and bring, your team up with you, you're not going to have long-term success. So you're going to maybe have some short-term successes. And so I think that's one attribute that I attained, was learning how to be the best that I could be, and also to be a good leader and to be able to work well with others. And those sports does that for young athletes. You see so many athletes going into the sales profession, and it's because we're competitive, and it's because we want to achieve, success, and it's an endless grind. I mean, just like one game, right? You have 82 games, say, a season for the NBA. Every single game is new. Every single day in sales is new. So you take that same, work ethic and you pour it into something like that, where you get what you put in. And that's something in sales and in business that you're able to attain. So I can work 24 hours a day and get what I put in. And that's something that you can't do everywhere. And not everybody gets that same work ethic from, not necessarily playing sports.
Got you. Were you ever a captain of a team?
I was. Yep. So that was one thing, and when I got to every level was different. In high school I was a captain, and in junior college I was all academic and all-star, and a captain. And then I got to NCAA Division II program where we're testing NCAA Division II, and I was basically, I remember my coach said, "What number do you want?" And I was like, number 12. And he's like, "Well, you're number 21. And I knew where I was at that point. I had to work and grind. I wasn't the big recruit. I was basically fighting for my position. And so even though I was not a captain when I got to the Division II level, I ended up, earning a starting position my senior year, and also winning the coaches award. So I think that's one thing where it's like I was willing to work harder, and everyone was willing to, obviously follow that lead, I think.
Absolutely. I think that's critical to being legitimate, to lead through influence, as John Maxwell says. The greatest level of leadership is influence, not position. Right. So that's awesome. Mentors, you made a comment about a teacher helped you see something in yourself you didn't see in yourself. As we transition and speak more about the hoop culture business, let's start off with, have you had mentors? Have you had people to come along and help you learn the game of business and help you see things you didn't see the blind spots? And if you have, how important has that been to building a business that's lasted for 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, my hoop culture family is both, our family, my work associates, and my mentors, because they've put in the same sacrifice and the same grind. So I would say every day that I go to work, I get to work with my mentors, people that I really look up to and admire for going through this sacrifice with me. As you can imagine, any entrepreneurship or any small business, what it takes to make it, it is constant sacrifice. And so my team has been able to do that from the beginning. I mean, my creative director is still with me from the beginning. My partner, basically vice president, is with me since the beginning. He was an intern from University of Central Florida, and he stuck through it with me. And without those guys, I wouldn't be where I am. And most particularly, I have investors and people that support me on a level all the time through the beginning that I couldn't get here without them. In particular, our CEO now, Tom Doyle, he's a mentor to me and helps me on a day-to-day basis, kind of wave the waters of this business life and see things differently and be able to help the business grow. So yeah, it's a team for sure. And I have mentors everywhere, from even the story that you mentioned about And One. I mean, things that I've studied and grown and learned from. I soaked it all in, reading books. So it's a constant learning process, but I have the right people around me to support me on a day-to-day basis to make this successful. and I couldn't do it without them. I mean, Hoop Culture wouldn't be Hoop Culture without those people.
I'm gonna tell you this. Within that one answer, I have a very clear picture of the quality and character of leader you are, in that you built something and you have people that been there with you from the beginning. Definitely have learned enough that they could go do their own thing, give it a shot, and they've stayed with you for that entire time. That's awesome. What's your business model? How would you describe? I'm coming in with $50 million check to help you with your next vision. How are you going to explain your business model to me?
Well, I would say, it's about product development for us. It's continuing to scale the business through advertising and growth online. I think it changes from year to year. I know that we used to look at retail really heavy, and now we're looking at pouring more resources into our online community. We have over 4 million social media followers through our platforms. I want to continue to grow that because I think we're a social community-driven brand, and the younger generation, really, it's appealing to them. So, for us, it's just how can we continue to develop new products that are gonna, stay and last. In particular, lately we've been developing backpacks and the supplementation storage.
Your backpacks are fire.
Yeah, I fell in love with them.
Yeah. I mean, your backpacks. I'm of the opinion that your backpack are one of those signature differentiators about your brand. That when people that are really into lifestyle apparel gear, they think of fly backpacks. Hoop culture, fly backpacks. Yeah, and I think that's a great association to have.
I think so too. I think you have to get behind a particular product and really be different than anyone else, because anyone can develop a t-shirt slogan. Anybody can develop a t-shirt brand. You can even develop it without even having inventory through Teespring. So if you have an idea, you can come up with that. But to develop a brand that's going to be everlasting, you have to continue to product develop. I mean, our new duffel bags, that's a backpack and a duffel bag. The quality of that backpack is unlike anything I've ever seen. The details in the zippers and the inside, it's tiled Hoop Culture. I mean, it's really we're really stepping up our product development game, and that's where we're pouring our resources into product development and advertising in particular, to be able to continue to grow our audience. I mean, we've already accomplished getting orders out faster. We've already accomplished, building a great customer service team. And now it's how can we scale this in the most efficient way? And it looks like, rather than just seeking retail, it looks like we can do it online, and especially in these times.
Hey, as one of my mentors says, brick and mortar is out of order. We're literally we are in the click in order era. We're not in the information age anymore. Information is a commodity.
Click in order.
We're in the digital age. We're in the digital age, and technology has in this season. There's another wave of technology that's coming out that's going to be differentiated, that the masses won't be able to duplicate. But we're in a season with the basic technology required to do business is available to the masses. So it's more about the story, your brand story. What's the story behind your brand? What's resonating with customers? Share with the audience, particularly for those young ones that are speaking, why your strategic approach moving forward is product development, and how product development is more than just another t-shirt. Another t-shirt slogan, or using a different set of colors predominantly.
Yeah, I think it's the long-term effect. I think it's about what your competitors can't do or willing to do and invest in. Because when you're trying to focus on product development, it's more than just a single product. You're getting samples from that product. You're going through a process through the factories. And then once you get through all of that, now you have to place some significant orders. And so it's an investment all around, from the design, the build out, and being able to be happy with that product, and then to mass produce it. So it's one of those things where I could go and print off 10 t-shirts and have me a business. But if I want to get into backpacks, I have minimum orders. I have to, pay up front more so. So as a young entrepreneur, you have to think about those things with, cash flow, what you're going to invest in, and margins. I think margins is the biggest thing for young people to understand. If you get it paid $5 for a t-shirt and you're selling it for $10, you're making $5. If you can buy an item for $10 and sell it for $100, you might be more willing to invest into that process and be able to increase your inventory for something like that, because you know that you can turn that around. It's a long cycle for sure, because it's like you get your product, you have to advertise it, and you have to sell it and fulfill the orders. There's a cycle there. But once you start to develop that cycle, maybe with some of the smaller things, with t-shirts and long sleeves and hoodies, and then you have a process, then you can kind of filter in that same process with bigger products that people aren't used to. And I think that's where we see our audience getting the most excited about, our customers, over new drops that are custom, like the custom shorts, the custom backpacks. That's something they can't just get everywhere. And so we built the community, and now we're filtering in product development with that. So, doing it from the beginning is a challenge, but also it's worth it in the long run to be able to focus on product development. But there's a lot of factors that go into that, and in particular, minimum order quantities, cost of goods, and then what can you get? How much does it cost and how much you can sell them for? Because you're playing with the big guys, right? Like Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, like they're able to sell an item for $80, and they probably have $10 into that because they're mass producing hundreds of thousands. So if you're saying I want 1,000 of those, you might have to pay $40 for that same item to sell it for $80. So as a small, young entrepreneur, you have to think of those things as cost of goods and what you can sell it for and what you want to focus on to get started, and just continue to reinvest into that process. That's the biggest thing that I learned from the beginning is it's a constant reinvestment.
And that's
with inventory-based business.
Excuse me, but I think that's something that a lot of young entrepreneurs that they have the aspirations but haven't developed the business sense yet may miss out on, because they think that profit that they're making is pocket profit, as opposed to there's a season of just putting it back in to grow and build the business. You're in an extremely fragmented market, right? It's huge. It's so huge, but it's fragmented in many ways. Talk about where's your sources of income coming in from? Is it 100% online? Is it 100% apparel? How's that looking right now? How is the money? What products or what sales channels are generating revenue for you?
Yeah, so it's pretty much all online. We've opened up some other sales channels as far as being able to utilize our online capacity through other platforms, selling on Facebook, on Google. So there'll be other channels but it's all online sales. And then we've added to the mix team sales and in particular, like some wholesale that comes along with that. So a team might buy, a couple hundred uniforms for their organization, and we may outfit them with shirts, shooting shirts, hoodies, all of those accessories. So it kind of comes back in the line with what are we producing and where does it make most sense on these teams, for example. So that opens up a whole nother market for us. Backpacks for, so teams can get backpacks, teams can get uniforms. So we've really poured a lot of time and resources into the uniform side of the business to be able to produce something like that. And we're still continuing to work on that. But that's a big opportunity for growth for us. So I would say, the online is a huge number one and a focus of our main focus every single day. And then also team sales and some wholesale.
Got it. And when it comes to the online space, there's always the content. What's your guys' content game? What's your content strategy when it comes to leveraging? I come from a background where we believed every business was a media company in the modern terms, and that the production of content in some form and fashion was instrumental in telling the story of the brand. How does HoopCulture approach that?
I think it's one of those things where being a smaller brand compared to the big guys out there. I call them like the Nikes and Adidases out, Under Armours. But being a little more flexible, we can work on content day to day, depending on what's going on in the world. I think it gives us a leverage up, especially with our product being able to. So you see, like in our warehouse, we have we can print products. So we have t-shirts, hoodies, everything's printed inside our warehouse. So if we have a particular
American made, folks, American made.
And so for a particular cause or a movement, like we can turn that around pretty quickly. So we're really like on a day-to-day basis when it comes to developing content ideas. And I think that kind of makes us a little different, gives us a competitive advantage. So what's going on in society, we're able to encompass into what's going on at HoopCulture. But obviously we want to continue to streamline the passion of basketball into motivational sayings that motivate people on and off the court, that they feel the part of the culture when they're wearing our gear and part of the lifestyle. I think at the very beginning of the brand, I was like, I want someone to not necessarily just hoop in it, but when they put it on and go to the movies, like people know they're a baller. I remember when I was a young kid and like you were in the Northeast, 5-star basketball camp was huge because I think Michael Jordan was there. So any kid I saw that I go to a camp and they had a 5-star, I was like, man, they're so nice. I'm sure they're awesome. And so I wanted that 5-star hoop, but you had to earn it. Nowadays, you can get any t-shirt you want, but that's why I want people to feel when they're wearing HoopCulture. It's part of the culture, but also like I want people to know that they're a baller.
Let's drill into that a little bit further as we wrap up, because I know from conversations that I've had with you in the past that you've been pretty focused in staying in the lifestyle brand. Meaning, I went out, I wore my Nike, my Under Armours, my Adidas on the court. I dropped my 35. I shower, I refreshing, but I'm stepping out of the locker room for my after game activities in some fly HoopCulture gear. You want to be in that space. One, why? And two, do you foresee the next 10 years? It's just an involvement of really mastering that lane and staying in that lifestyle space and not venturing into the performance area, maybe having HoopCulture sneaker, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the thing that makes us a little unique is that we listen to our community, our audience, what they want and what they need, and and we go where they go. So I think it's one of those things that we're constantly going to be developing and entering new spaces based on the demand for our product. But I just, I think the streetwear, the lifestyle, the culture of basketball is so appealing because you have the music side, you have the video gaming side, you have every basketball player wants to be in hip hop and every hip hop artist wants to be a basketball player. It's like being part of that culture is so fun, but like why not wear our shorts hooping? Why not wear our shirts hooping? So I think that it's going to be one of those environments where people are just wearing our brand everywhere, and as we continue to grow, they feel part of our community, whether they're playing or going out there into the clubs with some different products. So if we continue to develop products based on for the young kids, for the older generation, where it's clean and simple, have a little bit of something for everybody, then we can kind of encompass that whole basketball space. But to be honest with you, like that streetwear lifestyle, it's just appealing, to be part of that, to say like we're the streetwear. I always used to say like that our brand is sculpted from the game of basketball, and so it's like that streetwear feel, that lifestyle, but people are hooping in our stuff, and I would too. So I wouldn't necessarily segment us out of that, especially now that we're getting into team uniforms and getting into that side of the business. So we'll see where it takes us over the next 10 years, but we're going to listen to our community and really try to push it.
Is there exit strategy or is this legacy?
That's an even better question than the last question.
Because I know people have, without you telling me, because you never told me this, but I know people have came at you with some, maybe some with a blank check. What would it take for us to be able to get your brand?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things about timing. Trying to fulfill this dream and this process of creating something that's sustainable is the first step. If you want to create a brand and have an exit strategy and build a legacy all at the same time. I mean, look at the folks at And One, right? Like Seth and those guys that built And One. Like, they created a legacy and the brand is still alive, I mean, so it's one of those.
You're hitting a sore spot with me. I could go off on that. Go ahead, though.
No, it's just funny saying it out loud. But, so it's one of those things where, we want to make sure that this legacy lasts forever, and that it's a brand that's sustainable and continue to grow to the point where we're pleased and happy with it. So we're just taking it one day at a time, and opportunity comes, and we want to see what's best for our HoopCulture family, our investors, and our brand in the long run. So whatever that looks like, we're open to wherever it takes us. But right now, it's one day at a time.
Sounds like you're really enjoying the journey, Mike, and it's awesome. You've had this window in the journey to pause, reflect, appreciate, and I'm sure that brought some renewal of energy, renewal of focus, and okay, let's get to work for the next 20 years. I'm looking forward to see where the next 20 years leads for HoopCulture.
Me too.
Hey, Mike, I really appreciate your time today on the Basketball Remix podcast. I appreciate, for those that don't know, we met several years ago through business, even though we never actually did business. And this is the amazing thing. We never actually did business, but we have stayed in touch over the years, just because I think there was a sincere respect for the way we had approached things.
I don't want to cut you off, but you know that I'm a big fan from the beginning of you. So I appreciate
that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'm gonna be following up with you soon, man. Basketball Remix. I'm bringing that to the market. I got some things in work to bring a better basketball sport to the market. So I don't think I've disclosed a whole lot about that with you, but in the coming weeks, I'm going to bring you up to speed, so you know exactly where my passion is, what I've been sitting on for the past 10, 20 years, and why my response to that comment about And One was like, ooh, because not only is And One still around, but And One did have that window of opportunity to, I would say at this stage, be twice as large as they were then. And when the year they were sold, they did $215 million.
Yeah.
Right. The year they got sold. So you can imagine what they sold for. And I have my own conspiracy theories behind the fall of And One, because And One combined it really with the mixtape tour. Really threatened traditional basketball. It was a legitimate threat to that whole space. So anyway, with that, man, Mike Brown, founder and president of HoopCulture, the flyest basketball lifestyle brand out there in the market, with the flyest backpacks in the market. Mike, I appreciate your time, man. We went a little bit over, so I apologize for that. Look forward to talking to you soon, man. Thank you for joining, and be blessed.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Mark.
Hey, I want to thank you for listening to the Basketball Remix podcast. I want to let you know about some really cool t-shirts based upon the no backboard concept. Now, these are high quality tri-blend t-shirts for only $20. It's high value, low expense. So stop by nobackboard.myshopify.com. We have several different designs, so I'm confident you'll find a design that you like. And in the process, you'll be supporting my efforts to bring a Basketball Remix league to your city. Finally, let's connect on social media. I would love for you to stay up to date with my efforts with Basketball the Remix, the modern interpretation of the original game, as well as catch all my latest podcast drops with the Basketball the Remix podcast, and also the podcast I do with my main man, Independent Rob, of B-Ball Addicts, the business of basketball from the blacktop to the boardroom. Hey, until next time, this is Coach 1891, Mark Armstrong. Be blessed, and I know I'll see you at the top.